Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone, so happy to see you. Today, we're going to talk about innovation ecosystem, digital transformation, and startups. It's going to be really exciting. I want to thank you that you're coming to talk with us and see what we're doing. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And my guest today is Toma. Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning, Eddie.
So happy to see you here. Dan is the co-founder at Outcome and the author of The Corporate Startup and a new book called Innovation Accounting. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
I'm so happy that you're here. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And now we can start. I have a question that I usually ask at the beginning, which is a very general question, but I get so many different answers. So what are the biggest obstacles to innovation?
There's many obstacles to innovation, and I think it really depends on the organization that you are referring to, or the organization you're working in. To cite some research, I would say that one of the two biggest ones are the inability for leaders to measure the effects of innovation and measure the process of innovation. Hence, the second book that we just launched. And the first one would be actually, and unfortunately, internal politics. But again, this don't necessarily reflect the reality of every company or of every company in every country. This is just some research I found. Personally, I would argue that yes, politics plays an important role. I've seen it from my own experience when I was employed by large organizations as a product owner. Essentially, that was my role, or innovation expert. And then I also seen it from a perspective of consulting for large organizations from the outside and helping them transform.
So tell me, how does it look, this politics, that you're getting to one person and another one is saying it's not my idea, it's not under my supervision, so I won't be any part of it and maybe go against it? So what's really happening?
Probably the root cause of everything is connected to the incentive package that is offered by most of the organizations. Again, as I said, politics is cited as the number one blocker. However, the root causes are probably different. They might be cultural. However, many times I've seen this issue being rooted in the incentive package. Essentially, managers, in particular middle managers, I don't want to point fingers, it's just stating the obvious, are incentivized on quarterly goals, on quarterly targets. So obviously they will do their very best to achieve those targets in the given time. Unfortunately, innovation, and in particular the more disruptive forms of innovation, require a bit more patience. You can't be profitable with an Airbnb type of idea in a quarter. It actually took a company like Tesla or a company like Airbnb or many other startups, and again, you're calling from Israel, I think you know a couple of things about startups. It took them 5-10 years to even be profitable. This is why innovation requires patience, and unfortunately, if people are incentivized on short-term goals, there is a discrepancy between what innovation requires and what people are incentivized to do. And this obviously leads to politics. Like, I'm going to sponsor that project because that project has, let's say, a shorter payoff time than the other project that has longer payoff times. And innovation is a risky business, and we all know that. So therefore, I'm not going to invest I'm not going to put my career on line for innovation when I can do a safe bet on this one other project where we're just changing the color of an existing product or the flavor, and we know how to do all of the other things behind.
Yeah. But I could say that the same goes for the leadership in the C level. They are incentivized in a certain sense, which is short term too.
To be honest with you, I believed that for a long time. I don't want to contradict you in any way. I believed that for a long time. However, I found some, as we were working on innovation accounting, we found some really interesting research, actually done by Harvard Business. No, it was Harvard School of Law, and they identified that actually boards as well as investors are pretty much long-term focus. I think the problem with most organizations, again, this is another piece of research, is with let's say 3 levels beneath the board. So you'll call it typically the middle management. There was actually a research, I think it was in a book on behavior economics, very interesting research. It was basically a CEO that was put in front of 10 risky decisions, and the same risky decisions were given to his middle management level. And the CEO actually took them all, took absolutely invested in all 10 risky initiatives, while the middle managers only tried to invest in one or two. The difference that the researcher was trying to point out, and I can't remember who the researcher was, so I can look it up and send it to you after the call. If anybody here in the live session is interested, just reach out to me. I'll do my best to dig it up. I read it like 5, 6 years ago. The idea is that the CEO is having a portfolio view of the investment, thinking like a venture capitalist, essentially. Like, I'm going to invest in 10 ideas, one will pay off, 6 will probably die, and what is left, the other 3 will probably break even. Whether the middle management layer was thinking, well, like a middle management layer, I'm going to invest in the sure bets, I'm trying not to put my career on the line, my personal job is to make it up the next management level. I obviously won't do that if I have a big black stain on my CV with, oh, look how much money you've invested, and it didn't lead to anywhere. And obviously now we can start a conversation on culture. Why would somebody be punished if they take risks, and so on and so forth? So I think, as simple as your question is, the answers are very, very complex.
Yeah. And tell me, let's say that you are coming to a new organization you're working with, and you know that there are politics for sure, and you know the middle management are risk averse. What would you do? What were the first thing that you would tell them?
We usually, and I'm speaking here also from perspective of my colleagues at Alcom, we usually try to be on the side of data. We try to use data in absolutely everything that we do and everything we advise. In this particular case, we would normally approach a client from a perspective of try to understand the current situation. We usually perform an ecosystem audit, and we try to understand what's actually holding back this organization from becoming innovative and not coming in and prescribing the latest trendy patch for innovation, or oh, you are in banking, we're just going to copy what the bank from across the street is doing, or from one of our past clients. I usually give the analogy of being a doctor, right? You have a problem, you go and visit the doctor. You would actually want him to perform some tests before they prescribe any kind of medicine to you. At
Yeah.
least like hear your lungs, or prescribe, take some blood, analyze it before they actually prescribe anything. You won't feel very confident taking a pill that was prescribed to you the moment you walked in the door. Imagine you walk into the
Yeah.
office and say, you should take that pill.
Yeah.
Actually, probably I won't be doing that. Probably I'll seek a second opinion.
Yeah. So let's say I'm asking it because the term innovation is so large, and some people see it from the maybe culture or the HR perspective. Some
Hmm.
people see it from the technology point of view. Some people see it from the processes. Some people see it from the money and the business. So, what would be the first touch point that you would go into, and after you know the situation, you examined, you have the
Yeah.
analysis, what would be the first thing that you would think about?
We usually try to aim for low-hanging fruits, and again, usually if you want to bring people on the side of any change initiative, regardless if it's innovation, digital transformation, any change initiative, you need to show people results, and usually have a runway of about 18 months. If in 18 months you can't show concrete progress, not tiny incremental one, but like really big leaps forward, it's going to be very difficult to continue to get people on your side, get people excited about change, get people moving forward. So again, it really depends from an organization to organization. I would be, again, my background is engineering, electronics and telecommunication. I'm more interested in hard facts and numbers. So I will probably go in and try to make some, let's say, business impact within an 18 months time period. Obviously, process is important. Obviously, culture is important. But I would put business impact first, followed by probably process, and followed by probably culture. I have a
Mhm.
different stance on culture. I believe that culture follows process, not the other way around. So if we were to take a hike into the mountains and spend a weekend there, it's not going to change the culture of our company as much as thinking about how we work and thinking about how we do our day-to-day job and how we build products. It's going to probably change it more.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It seems like in many cases, saying that innovation starts with culture is a bit like easier, because you say, yeah, we
It's
need
it's,
to
it's, it's
have
a good
a,
it's a good scapegoat.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's start with something very soft, and people should be secure and feel trust, and then and then it's easier because once you don't have to show the bottom line, you could do it. But
Yeah,
having a bottom line and showing, as you say, like a year and a half is like quite quick to show something. That's a tricky thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And it requires so much more than soft skills. And I totally agree with you that once you have these results, you could continue with it. But before
yeah.
you have the trust of the people that, yeah, that could be a good direction, they will question it for sure.
And this is for everybody that's in a role and like it's live now with us on the session. If you work in change management, if you work in the transformation office, you don't have to be a consultant like I am or my colleagues are. But if your role has to do with change and you've just been appointed to that role, you have about 18 months to show results. After that 18-month period, people will start questioning you, questioning your ability, question the entire transformation or the entire change process. There will be the skeptics will have a lot of ammunition to throw at you after that 18 months period. I would encourage you, as I said, 18 months. Try to do your best to show results. You are racing against the clock. Your goal is to make it to the next 18 months period. It's like in sports, right? But you can basically lose at every 18 months period. So obviously, don't forget about your end goal. Don't forget where you're heading. Don't just take decisions because they are very quick and low hanging fruit. But think about your entire vision. Think about the road ahead and try to take steps that lead to results in 18 months that are connected to your overall transformation vision. That will be my advice to any chief transformation officer here or anybody working in change management.
Yeah. As we said, I think that we said that measurement is really important, and that's why you wrote the innovation accounting. So, could you tell me what is the first main reasonable goal that a company could have when they're trying to measure? Will they measure total revenue? Will they measure a specific project compared to what? Like, you cannot compare 15 years of a company to a new product. So how do you do that?
Yeah. Obviously, revenue is good, right? It's a good measurement. However, revenue can't be influenced. You cannot influence revenue unless you're trying to sell the building that you're working from. Revenue is a result of a process, be it a sales process, be it an innovation process, be it a whatever process. But let's refer to innovation. Revenue coming from innovation is a result of your company's ability to build products that the market wants, new products that the market wants specifically. I wouldn't necessarily go for measuring revenue because, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, we need patience with innovation. I would try to measure things around cost of failure. I will try to measure things around time. I will try to measure things around, in general, velocity indicators, how fast we are learning, how fast we are launching things in the market versus what we did before the change started. Cost of failure, again, it's probably one of my favorite indicators. Essentially, look at how much has been spent in your organization in the past on products that haven't worked, and look at how much you, under the new process and with the new skills and with the new everything, are burning on ideas that don't work. And again, usually you're going to go through a lot of ideas that initially don't work before you reach one. Try to make a case to upper management, try to make a case to your shareholders and stakeholders. Look, under the new process, our cost of failure dropped significantly versus what it was before. Why? Because now we validate better. We don't launch products that we haven't validated with the customers. We are so much more customer centric, and this is why we have the ability to kill products earlier in their life cycle rather than later. And earlier versus later means you are lowering the cost of failure by killing stuff earlier.
What about missed opportunities? Just measuring all the things that you missed in the past. Would it help?
Opportunity cost is a good indicator. However, I'm on the side of the people that are a bit more reluctant to use it because, first of all, it's difficult to compute. It obviously has a lot of assumptions underneath, and it takes a lot of time to compute. And I would rather do something else with the time. If by all means you have the ability to compute that, if you're sitting on a big transformation team and you can do that, by all means do it. It's going to paint obviously a higher fidelity pictures than not having it. But I would personally not waste my time if I am obviously under pressure, budget wise and time wise.
Yeah. So till now we talked about the company itself, and I want to talk about ecosystems and why they're so important for the business. So how do you see ecosystems and things that are outside what we have in the company?
Yeah, I mean it's a normal transition. I would say it's something very human. We've progressed because we collaborated. Human society would have looked probably very different if every tribe, every hunter-gatherer would have essentially just do stuff by themselves in a very closed and isolated community and not interact with the tribes that are living upstream or downstream from them. So I think collaboration is in our nature as humans, and I think it's just normal for companies to replicate that. Leaders need to understand that no matter how big their company is, there's probably somebody out there that can probably do something a bit better, especially on innovation, in particular on innovation. Again, it doesn't make sense to build everything. Sometimes it's easier to just borrow or collaborate. Sometimes the overhead of building something is just not justified by the return. However, you are very interested in finding out what's happening if you enable that particular feature, or if you have that particular technology and you try to use it. So why not take a trip to Israel and find a good startup you can collaborate or to Berlin or to London or to San Francisco, other places, right? Singapore, it's a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah. And other than startups, what about like working with academy, working with other suppliers,
It's
working with
obviously it's part of the collaboration game. I mean,
Mhm.
open innovation is it's big and it's always been big. Collaboration with universities, collaboration in your entire supply chain. Again, these are things that I would say most of the organizations are aware of, and I would say that most of them try to do it. Obviously, some of them do it better than others, but that's because they might be, I don't know, more advanced, or they have better people to do it, or they use a better process. But at least everybody is aware of the importance, and nobody is there saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to work with universities, or I'm not interested in partnerships with startups." On the contrary, I think there's more weight being shifted within the corporation when we talk about innovation towards collaboration, towards open innovation, especially now in the wake of COVID, where we've seen a lot of new initiatives coming from large organizations as a result of them collaborating either within their industry, or they've partnered with organizations outside their industry or in adjacent sectors.
So really, how do you see COVID really influence? In the past, I asked like, when I asked, like, said everybody needs to know that we're currently in the COVID crisis, and I don't say it anymore. It seems like it's going to be here for a very long time, so I'm not indicating that. But I really want to know, how do you see things changing right now and in the future due to COVID?
Yeah, I think again, leaving aside the human disaster, the loss of life, the change of lifestyle, the other medical issues that are a result of COVID and people not able to exercise or go outside, leaving that aside, and again, I'm not in any way diminishing what is happening and what has happened. Um, I think the silver lining to the situation, again, from an innovation perspective, from a transformation perspective, is that now everybody agrees at both intellectual level and also action level that digital transformation needs to happen. And it's not a matter of, oh, it's just a wave, oh, it's just a trend, we're gonna weather it out, it's fine, let the wave pass, and we're gonna go back to selling our stupid cars the way they were before. No, like nobody is actually saying that any longer. But that's digital transformation. On the innovation side, I think uh, leaders now obviously became more aware of the importance of innovation, and also became way more pragmatic when it comes to innovation. And by way more pragmatic, and I'm going to highlight this, before COVID, in a lot of large organizations, there was a case of innovation theater. Uh, Organizations were investing in innovation just because it was trendy, just because it was cool, just because they read, I don't know, whatever book. They've just basically stuffed. They built offices with nice furniture. They stuffed it with young people, and then they were very proud of those labs. And you would see in some countries awards being given for how good the lab looks. Uh, and I think that now with COVID, I'm seeing a lot of these companies shutting down those labs, and I think that's very good. It's a good step in the right direction. This means that leaders now became and are becoming more pragmatic when it comes to investments in innovation. They want to see results. Enough with the bean bags, enough with the Hawaiian shirts, enough with the trendy hippie looking like office. Show me results. I don't care if you work from home, if you work from a hippie office in Berlin. Um, show me impact, show me results. And I think it's very positive to see a lot of these innovation theater labs being closed, being shut down.
I understand what you're saying because it was a theater and not the real thing. But actually, we know that most companies really reduced the amount of money they placed on innovation and not the other way around. And one of the things they've done is close these labs. And it's not like they're investing in really innovation right now. They're just closing
I agree. This is the first step. As I said, this is the first step in the right direction. I'm not saying that the follow-up step is that the second step is the right one. You are correct. Most organizations are very scared about the future, so they close the lab, and then what they do next is that they put the money on the core business again. Um, I fully agree. However, I had the pleasant surprise to work with some leaders throughout the situation last year, and actually innovation, on the contrary, became number one on the strategic agenda. And I'm talking about companies with 1,000 employees, 3,000 employees. I'm talking companies that are 10,000 plus employees, 100 offices around the world, very traditional industry. Again, I think it boils down to leadership and leadership's understanding of of the future. If you happen to work with visionary leaders, you will see what I just described happening. Labs are shutting down. They look twice at their past investment. They want to learn from the mistakes they've made in the innovation process or in the innovation activities throughout the past, let's say, 3-5 years. They take a really cold shower, if you want. They audit everything, and then they move forward in a more pragmatic way, doubling down on innovation, not taking the budget and putting it somewhere else. If you work with more traditional leaders, for the lack of better words, you will see exactly what you described.
Yeah. So why do you think that closing the labs is like a proof that I understand that you say labs are theater, but how do
Most
you
of them
think
are.
it's
Most
proof?
of them are. I'm not saying
Okay.
that all labs are. I'm just saying that the majority were built for PR purposes.
Yeah, but like it makes sense. So how do you show that you're investing in innovation? You need something tangible. You cannot see someone in front of the computer. I'm really thinking about something innovative. It doesn't sell. It needs to have like a tangible thing, which is a lab, and they show it. But the people working in these labs did not do really something which is substantially showing bottom line results. That's what you're saying,
Yeah, I
other than
think
the
I
fact
think
that,
that's no matter how you want to organize for innovation, regardless if you want to use the lab structure where you centralize innovation, or you want to use a destructured, if you want, way of innovation where every department is responsible for their own innovation, or you want to use a hybrid model where you do have a lab, but then every department is also responsible for their own innovation goals. No matter what type of structure you want to use for innovation, what's important is to be pragmatic, for people to understand that innovation needs to have an impact beyond just an article in a magazine saying how cool your office looks like. Innovation needs to have an impact. You need to see results in 3-5 years. Going back to innovation accounting, and again, I'm not doing it to promote the book in any way. We propose some indicators there, and there are companies that are using these indicators. For example, one of the indicators is new product vitality index. Essentially, this indicator is telling you how much in percentage of your current year's revenue comes from products that you launched in the past 3 to 5 years. So again, it's very, very pragmatic. Okay, I'm in charge of 100 million in my department. From that 100 million of revenue, I get 10 million from products that my department has launched in the past 3-5 years. So I can see exactly that innovation contributed 10% to my bottom line. Then if you combine this indicator with other indicators that we actually put forward in the book, you can actually analyze to see how much you've spent for those 10 million. Have you spent 5 million or have you spent 20 million to get 10, which is not necessarily the best thing, but who knows, maybe one of those ideas is going to become the next Tesla. I don't know. Again, through indicators and through analysis, you can see if your company has pragmatism when it comes to innovation, And also through analysis and through indicators, you are able to force pragmatism within the organization. If all of a sudden you're going to have people incentivized or forced to show concrete data using some of the indicators I just presented above, um, the entire conversation is going to be different, even at product team level.
Yeah. So we talked about innovation and counting, but I know that you have a book called The Corporate Startup. And
Yes.
you mentioned right now that maybe Tesla could be one of your portfolio projects, but still we didn't have any. I don't know about a Tesla growing from an established traditional company yet. Or maybe I'm not aware of the numbers, but I don't know about that. So could you share the most important idea in the book, The Corporate Startup?
Right. The idea behind a corporate startup, and again, this was a book that we wrote based on our experience, having worked with large companies, having helped them transform. The idea of the corporate startup is essentially around what kind of changes do large organizations need to make in order to become more innovative. The idea of the corporate startup is that innovation is not just one single thing. It's not just process, or it's not just culture. It's actually a mix of things. It's like your watch, right? A mechanical watch that has a lot of gears. It's a lot about all those gears moving together in sync for you to get an accurate time measurement, right? It's about innovation strategy, is about measuring your portfolio, is about obviously your innovation practice. That means the methodologies you're using, the tools that you're using, everything around there. It's about innovation management. How do we manage? It's about using a framework for innovation. It's about innovation accounting. And again, innovation accounting used to be a chapter, I mean, is a chapter in the corporate startup, but then everybody was so interested in the topic that we decided to write an entire book on that chapter. It's about all these things, and it's not about all these things at an intellectual level, but it's about all these things and how they are applied. And it's about all these things being equally mature. If your organization is just very good on practice and it's not doing anything on strategy, you will not see the results. Hence what I told you at the beginning, whenever we come into a client, we try to understand what is their current maturity level, innovation maturity level, and what is holding them back. We might go to a client and we see, hey, their product lifecycle is amazing. It's probably one of the best we've seen. However, they don't have a very clear innovation strategy, or they don't measure their portfolio well, or innovation management, it's happening a bit too loose here. We need to lift those let's say pillars to the maturity of the highest performing one. Then you're going to see results. Again, it's think about your watch, and think about all those gears. If you have a very nice brand new gear in there, just one of them, and it's super polished and it's oiled and it works amazingly by itself, if the mechanism around it is not as polished, as refined, as new as that particular gear is, the watch will most likely malfunction. So
Yeah.
it's important to understand the situation of all the gears. And the corporate startup is about all those gears that need to move together in sync and need to be equally developed and equally mature.
Yeah. So, what is the most surprising thing you learned after so many years as an innovation consultant?
Um, Good question. There are many things. I think one of the things that I learned, again, having worked with clients around the world, is that innovation tastes differently depending on where you are. Innovation in let's say Western Europe is different than innovation in Southeast Asia, and we should not be in any way, let's say, arrogant about it, and we should never be, I think arrogant is not the correct word, I would use dogmatic about it. I don't think we should come in and say all innovations need to look like this, because then we're going to end up with saying that anything that's outside San Francisco is not innovation, and that's not true. I think there's actually a lot of cool places, a lot of great companies, startups, even startups, right, that are probably way more innovative outside San Francisco than the ones in San Francisco. And again, talking to you in Israel, I think this hits home with a lot of your audience,
Yeah.
and in particular with you. I think this is one of the most interesting things I've learned. I try to take more of a let's say humble take on what is innovation and accept it as it is. Try to understand what is the goal that you want to achieve with innovation, and accept the fact that company A, startup B, company C, they all have different goals and different objectives, right? There's a lot of innovation happening in the defense space. I've actually at the conference in Israel, I was exchanging some thoughts with some folks at the IDF, and for them, innovation was totally different than it was in the banking sector, because their objective as an organization is different than the ones from a bank in Western Europe or from a chemical company in North America. And we should not never come in and say, oh, you guys at IDF, you should do exactly what this chemical company in the US is doing, or the other way around. Right? I cannot go
Yeah.
and sit in front of a.
They would probably won't listen to you because Israelis know the best everything.
I know that. I know that I've worked in the country many times. That's another surprising thing I learned in innovation is work with folks in Israel. I would say that even there is a spectrum, and I think that ladies, women in Israel are way easier to work with than men. Men
Yeah.
know it all. Women, you can work with them, you can find common ground, we can move together, we can learn from each other. With men, it's more like I learn from them pretty much.
Yeah. There is a very funny story. I tell it like I think I told it so many times since I heard it from one of my interviewee. And he told me that there was this PISA test testing the results of kids in math. And it's like worldwide, taking the test. And Israel is like not that good in math in general. So we don't have any like qualifications for our talents. We're not that good in math. But one of these tests, I don't know if it's usual or not, but they ask how sure you are with the results. And then Israelis came first. And so the kid, so you don't need the credentials. You just need to be sure about what you're saying. So it's so Israeli to be sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there a couple of times. That was. I wouldn't list that any. I wouldn't list that under. As I said, new things I learned innovation wise. That's more cultural shocks, I would say.
Shock. That's a good word. So my last question would be, what is your number one tip for leaders today?
I would say that I don't think it changed over the years. My answer is now the same as it was a year ago or 3 years ago. I would say first of all, stay humble. You don't know everything. No matter if you are from Israel or you're from another country.
Even Israelis don't know
Even
it.
Israelis don't know everything. Yeah, I hate to say it on your show. Even Israelis don't know everything. Um, yeah, you don't know everything. That means that you need to surround yourself with people that are better than you. They might be younger, they might look different than you, but if they are better in aspect A and aspect B, that's exactly what you're looking for. And from humbleness, there comes another important attribute that you need to have. You need to be curious. You need to be curious. Always ask yourself, why is that? How can we do it better, rather than I know why that is happening and I know how to solve it. More like, oh, this is interesting. What can we do about it? Who do we need to employ to help us solve this problem? Why is this happening? Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a different result. Curiosity, I think, and humbleness go hand in hand, and they are very much connected with one another, and they're very much connected with the results that the company gets. Uh, Again, I'm not giving this advice only to 10,000 plus people, companies, and leaders. I'm giving the same advice to startup entrepreneurs. If you are three people working in a co-working space, you need to develop the same skills, because essentially at the end of the day, the idea that you're building, you want it to become a 10,000 plus people company. So stay curious, stay humble, and always seek to get better by being curious and humble.
Yeah, I totally agree about the curiosity and humbleness, but curiosity is like being open-minded, and you cannot do anything different if you're not open-minded. And if you're so sure of yourself, you're afraid to find out that you're not what you're thinking. And therefore, you would not change anything because you don't want to maybe put it into the tests.
I fully agree.
Yeah. So in general, I think that open-mindedness and curiosity is important for people in their
Yeah,
lives and in what they're
yeah,
doing, and not only in business.
yeah.
So I want to thank you for your time. It's been such a pleasure, Dan, just talking to you again. It's always fun to talk to you. Where could people find more and hear about your work and about the books and everything?
Well, for the books, I think Amazon is a good source. Alternatively, every book has their own website. For the corporate startup is thecorporatestartupbook.com, and for innovation accounting is innovationaccountingbook.com. And if you want to follow my thinking and you want to follow my colleagues, you can find us at weareoutcome.co.
Yeah. And if they want, they could find you on LinkedIn too, right?
I'm pretty active there, I would say.
Yeah, I
Unfortunately, I
know.
would say for the time that I'm spending every day, unfortunately, I'm too active there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I sometimes I feel like I'm working on LinkedIn. Nobody knows that. It's surely not LinkedIn, but I totally agree. And as I mentioned, Dan Toma is like such a great name to find when you search. It's like it's easy. So thanks to your parents.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Thank my parents. Don't thank me. I have nothing to do with that.
okay, again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining me. And if you want to learn more about my work, you're welcome to invincibleinnovation.com. And I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya. I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.